Okay, passage 2, and immediately we see a matching headings. What else have we got? Nice, a summary, and one of these things where it's like multiple choice, except you must choose 2. These can be very difficult. I'm scared of these. Alright, so definitely do the summary first. Why? Because the information that you learn here will help you with matching headings. It will help you with 1 or maybe 2 of these paragraphs. So let's do this one first. So immediately we need to find Jared Diamond's view. Scan, scan, scan. And we see Jared Diamond over there. It's important to notice that they give some information to introduce him. And that means this is the first time we see Jared Diamond. So then you can feel confident that there's nothing about Jared Diamond over here. This is the first time that we see him. Right, then what do? Try and find this last one. See where this summary ends. Now, one thing that made me a little bit confused here, I hate it when this happens. It's not clear, is this 1 paragraph or is it 2 paragraphs? Because this sentence ends right at the end of this line. It's possible it's 1 paragraph, but it's also possible that it's like that it's 2 paragraphs. So anyway, we'll see later. So, Diamond again, chieftains. Transporting statues, great number of people. This is quite nice because they can't really paraphrase that so much. You will understand the paraphrase. So, what do we have? Chieftains, Diamond again, maybe transporting great number of people. So I would look over here, around here first. Maybe it's there, but I don't see anything. So then I would go on and look over here, and I see chieftains over there. That's good. But I want great number of people. There we go. That's wonderful. I don't see transporting, but chieftains and great number of people, that makes me feel happy. So it turns out the summary is from there. That means it's probably 2 paragraphs, the summary. It's probably like that. Anyway, doesn't matter. Now, I like to try and do the last one first very often. I have a theory. I don't know if it's a good theory, if it's true, but I think often the last ones are easiest. The people who set the exam, they're concentrating really hard here. They're trying to make it really difficult. Then by the time they get here, they're tired. So they just put an easy one in. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I like to try and do this one first. Up to you. Right, so not only a great number of people, but also a great deal of. We should be able to find that. Where were we? Required both a lot of wood and a lot of people. So they often do this. If you have A and B, then in the question it's B and A. Wow, so confusing. So that's quite clear. Oh, I forgot to look at the grammar. Clearing land for noun could be countable or no, could be plural, countable or uncountable. Builder, it could be anything. It's a noun. Using the islands, a noun again, and a great deal of could be plural, countable or uncountable. So the grammar doesn't really help us. It just tells us we are looking for nouns and plural, countable or uncountable nouns. Anyway, so a great deal of what? A great deal of wood. Not too difficult. Alright, so whatever you want to do next, let's go to the beginning and see what we can see. The settlers destroyed the forests, cutting down the trees for fuel and clearing land for something. Cutting down the trees for fuel, that's what I want to find. There's wrecked the environment, maybe destroyed the forests. Cleared the forests, cutting down the trees, cleared the forests for firewood and farming. Great. Remember, fuel can be anything that you burn to get energy. So it can be petrol, it can be oil, it can be wood. And if it's wood, we call it firewood. So they cut down the trees for fuel, clearing the forest for firewood, and clearing the land for... Cleared the forest for firewood and farming. Not too bad. 20th century discoveries of pollen. This is a difficult word. It's a nice word to know. I've seen IELTS use it. It's the dust that comes out of a flower. Learn that word. It's a high-level word, band 7 word, but it's good to know. Palm forest is very nice. They can't paraphrase palm. A palm tree is a palm tree. You can't have a different word for it. So it's a nice scanning word. Grassland, Europeans. Right, I want palm forests. There's Europeans. So, IELTS has been nasty here. Scan, scan, scan. I don't see palm forests. I don't see pollen. What does that mean? It means they've gone back or forward, but it's usually back. I can't believe they've done it. They do it often in a diagram and often in a summary. One of them, they go back. They went all the way back over there. I can't believe they did that. And there's pollen there. Hey, not nice. So, we found the sentence. It was covered in palm forest, which turned into grassland by the time the Europeans arrived. Oh, it doesn't matter. There's nothing here. There's nothing there. Oh, that's just wasted a lot of time. We don't need that sentence. When the islanders were no longer able to build the something they needed to go fishing, they began using the islands as a food source. Right, so I'm liking fishing and I'm liking food source. So we don't need that over there. Scan, scan, scan. Fishing. And food source, can you see anything about foods? To eat. It's close enough to foods. So, here we are. As the trees became scarce, that means not many, they could no longer construct wooden canoes for fishing. They ate birds. When the islanders were no longer able to build, can you remember the synonym for build? Build is construct. What did they build? They constructed wooden canoes for fishing. Build which they needed to go fishing. So this is wooden canoes, but we only have one word, so only canoes. Canoe. It's like a one-man boat. Great, and I already know what this is. They began using the island something as a food source. So if you use something as food, what do you do with it? You eat it. They ate birds. Okay, it was easy. 4 easy marks. Very nice start. The only difficult thing is they tried to catch you over there and make you waste time by sending you back. They didn't do that by accident. I'm telling you, they do that deliberately. But we didn't waste too much time. So, yes, 4 nice, easy marks. Now, do you do this? I would say no. These are often very, very difficult. You've got to read a lot to find these. So I would go on and start with the matching headings. Okay, matching headings. Now, I get so many queries about matching headings. I think it's the biggest problem for students of all the question types. And students want me to give you a clear way to solve matching headings. Do this, do this, do this, and you'll be fine. And unfortunately, I can't, because there isn't one clear way. I have been struggling with this matching headings problem for 5 years, and there is no set of rules that will always apply. There is rather a set of rules that sometimes apply. So the best way is just do as many as possible and make notes where you can. I will show you a few things that can help you, but there's nothing that I can say always. This will always happen. I can say usually for all of the rules that I give you. Right, in this particular one, it's always a good idea just to read this again. This is about 2 of those paragraphs. It's also a good idea to make a mark over there, because remember, this is one paragraph, this is another paragraph. Sometimes you can just get a general idea of what the paragraph is about from the information that IELTS has chosen to summarize. In this example, not so much. This is about Jared Diamond's view, but there's no headings about Jared Diamond's view. So let's look at the paragraph. I would start with this paragraph though, because we've worked with it and you're familiar with it now a bit more than the other paragraphs. Now, one concept I want to introduce is the concept of end focus, which means that usually 70% of the time in English, we put important information at the end of a sentence. And it's something to notice when you're trying to find important information, very often at the end of the sentence. So here, that kind of thing is the important information. Grassland scrawny. This is just sort of background information. Then the forests disappeared. Now when IELTS summarized this paragraph, they only summarized this, so probably means this is more important than this. Now that's very important. They wrecked their own environment. This means destroyed. Unfortunately, the forests didn't grow back. Trees became scarce. No longer make these canoes. They ate birds. Decreased their crop. Descended into war. Cannibalism. This is when people eat people. Collapse of the civilization. Worst case scenario. What do you notice about that? It's all very, very negative. And this brings up one rule. If there is one rule about matching headings, it's that you need to look for something that the writer is repeating. It won't be the same word. It will be the same concept, the same idea, often just the same feeling. Now he's repeating a lot of negative things in this paragraph. And that's probably the main thing that you should just notice in this paragraph, is a lot of worst, war, decreased, scarce, wrecked, collapse. It's all very bad. So go and try and find a heading that's bad. Innovative. This is a positive word. This is creating brilliant new ideas. Undisputed answer. I don't know. Future? No, we're not talking about future. That's another thing to notice. Notice the tenses. Wrecked, ed, past tense, past tense. This whole thing is past tense. So we're not talking about the future. A theory which supports a local belief. I didn't see anything about a local belief. I'm looking for something bad, negative. Future again. These two now immediately are quite interesting because usually, I can't say always, but usually when they talk about the future, the future is usually somewhere in these in the final paragraphs of any reading. So if you see a heading about the future, you should go and start looking at the end of the passage. That's a good rule to remember. But again, I have to put the word sometimes with it. Two opposing views. No, because we've got Jared Diamond's view, but later on they talk about these other guys come in. So we're only talking about Jared Diamond's view. Destruction, there's a nice negative word. Outside the inhabitants' control. They couldn't control it. Outside the inhabitants' control, I don't know yet. We can check later. Statues made a situation worse. There's another negative word. That's good. So possibly this one. Diminishing food resources. Again, that's negative, decreasing. So I would say it's one of these three. Now we need to look at the other parts of this. Outside their control, statues made the situation worse, and food resources. Which one do you see? Do you remember this sentence over here? They couldn't go fishing, so they had to eat the birds. So they do talk about food. I like that one so far. What about outside their control? I don't see anything about that. These factors were not outside their control. This guy is saying that it was their fault. They did this. They wrecked their own environment. It was not outside their control. It was in their control. They did it. They cleared the forests. They ate the birds. Then they descended into civil war. So it wasn't outside their control. This is a strong word in this sentence. They destroyed their own environment. It was not outside their control. They controlled it. Statues made a situation worse. They don't mention the statues at all in this paragraph. So it's that and then that. This is the heart, really, of this paragraph. And yes, it was there. They did repeat it here. So the key to that was just to notice how this was all just very negative, and then look for negative words. That means B is 9. All right, the next one we should look at is is this one, because we do have a bit of information about this. The Moai were built to show the power of the chieftains, the transporting needed people and wood. By now you should know what Moai is. Moai is these statues. They give the definition right in the first line. So statues and Moai are the same thing. More negative, self-destruction. And this is one of those examples where the first line does give you the answer. The statues increased the negative thing, made it worse. The rest of the paragraph, he just describes how these chiefs all built statues, and that used up a lot of resources. And they used up all the wood and started a war. But you can get it just from this sentence. Accelerated the destruction. The Moai is the statues, and they made a situation worse. Accelerated the destruction. So that is 8. Alright, then what to do next? First of all, I'm just going to investigate these two, because I don't see anything about future. There's nothing about future here. We've done B and C. This is going to be about what they said. This is all past tense. Past tense. Past tense. Again, all past tense. Arrived. 8. All of this, that they're talking about something that happened in the past. It's possible that it could be this. They say it's a story of success. There are some lessons which we can learn. Maybe that's the future, but let's see what they say. They're just saying we can learn some lessons. The future of the statues? No. The future of the island? No. So there's no future in this whole thing. So I would be tempted to delete these two, because it's quite clear that they're not talking about the future. Anyway, that doesn't usually happen. That was just maybe a little bit of luck. They gave you 2 easy false ones. Sometimes those false ones are quite difficult. So we've got 4 paragraphs left. Might as well just start at the beginning with this big one. So this is about the statues. End of the first sentence. Describing the statues. And then some explorers arrived. More about the statues, the identity of the people who built the statues. And what they've done here, we saw it in some readings in Cambridge 12. This paragraph has actually got 2 topics. That's the first part of it, and that is the second part of it. I hate it when IELTS does this because it makes it really difficult. It's a paragraph with 2 topics. So you need to give a topic to this, and you need to give a topic to this. This is about the statues, description about the statues. This is about who built the statues. So I'm just going to take these colors away because they're a bit bright. So we're looking at this section here. Who built the statues? Their identity was in doubt. This guy thought they were created by these people. This guy thought they were built by aliens. This means aliens, E.T. Modern science has proved definitely that the builders were Polynesians. Local folklore says the statues walked, but researchers assumed they dragged them using ropes and logs. Environment management? No. Maybe. There's local. You could fall for this one, but it's not. We're not talking about the Rapa Nui people. We're talking about the statues. So it's not these opposing views. And we didn't see much about destruction. Now what they've done here is they've made a false heading to try and confuse you, because local is there and local is there. But this sentence says, local, this means stories, says the statues walked. However, the researchers think they dragged the statues, the people dragged the statues. And this says that the theory supports the local belief, but it's the opposite. The theory contradicts. It's against the local belief. It says that the local belief is not true. So they've taken this sentence and they've made a false heading there. So that basically just leaves us with this, and it's very difficult. An undisputed answer to a question about the Moai. What is the question about the Moai? Who built the statues? Undisputed means everybody agrees. There's no doubt. And that's it over there. Definitively proved, undisputed. Nobody disagrees. There is no doubt about who the builders were. So the answer to A is 2, but now how were you supposed to get that? There is no clear way. There is so much information and you don't have time to go through it all. So I think the best way for this paragraph was to delete the ones that you think it was not, and be careful about the false heading that they put there. Then you would end up with that one, and then go and look for that if you can find something that supports that. And that's the only strategy. There is no easy way to do these things, unfortunately. Alright, this next paragraph, now they introduce these two guys, and there is our but, and that's an important but because they believe the islanders weren't to blame. So the whole thing about this is that Jared Diamond believes that they wrecked their own environment. They were to blame. But these guys say, after the but, important information, it wasn't their fault. And it wasn't the statue's fault either. They protected their resources. They built thousands of stone windbreaks and gardened inside them, and they used volcanic rocks to keep the soil moist. In short, this is quite nice. This often helps us. This is in conclusion or in summary, so they're giving us a summary of the paragraph here. They were pioneers of sustainable farming. So that's the most important part of this sentence, of this paragraph. Pioneers, they were the first people to do it. Sustainable farming, something about protecting the environment. Innovative means new, inventive, the first people to do it. Sustainable environment management practices. Nothing about that, nothing about that. I think maybe some students might get trapped and say, this is the opposing view, but those two opposing views aren't both in this paragraph. It's two separate paragraphs. And outside their control, I didn't see anything about destruction. This paragraph was positive. They were heroes. They protected the resources. They built things. They were pioneers. So it's a very positive paragraph. So you needed to look for a positive word, and that's there. So that one was number 1. Maybe slightly easier. This one was very difficult, but I think this one you could get. It was given to you in the last sentence. Right, 3 more. Wow, this is a very exhausting matching headings. So, an activity that helped keep the peace required few people. So this is against what Diamond said. Required a lot of wood and a lot of people, and they're saying no, few people. Okay. The evidence backs up the folklore. That's interesting because I remember we saw a theory which supports local belief. Folklore is the local stories. They did some experiments about how to move these statues. That's just about how to move the statues. So this is quite interesting there. So it might have been a good idea to go to this paragraph earlier because it's quite a short paragraph. And there's not that much that they're saying. They're saying that what Jared Diamond said was wrong, and they have evidence for this, and then this is all about the evidence. So that's probably the most important word in the whole paragraph, this evidence. And again, it's not the opposing views because they didn't say anything about Diamond's view and didn't see anything about destruction. So that one wasn't too bad either. You could probably have gotten that one. Alright, now they're continuing to say that the settlers were not responsible. Now the settlers is different to the Rapa Nui people. The important part of this sentence is at the end, the rats. And if they repeat it in the next sentence, it means that's very important. The rats arrived. That's the rats. That's the rats. So they're repeating rats, rats, rats. More about rats. And then there is an also, and the Europeans introduced diseases. And then the slave traders came. So this is kind of a list of 3 things. 1, rats. 2, diseases. And 3, slave traders. And these 3 reasons are for the loss of the island's trees. So Jared Diamond was saying it's the people, these Rapa Nui people, who caused the trees to be lost. But this paragraph is saying it's not the people, it's rats, diseases, and slave traders, which caused all of these problems for these people. Two opposing views, no. And that's, again, negative stuff. It's about the problems, the rats and the diseases. And outside of their control, they could not control it. They could not control the rats or the diseases or the slave traders. It's not their fault. So if you've done all of these others correctly, then it starts to get a bit easier. But you had to do these others properly first. And that will just leave us with this, two opposing views. This was actually a very difficult one. This is why I say be careful of the small paragraphs. They make them very difficult. So two opposing views is an island of peaceful people compared to, here's the opposing, rather than reckless destroyers, destroying, ruining everything. So those, and then they have another rather than, they're repeating failure compared to success. So these are the two opposing views. Probably quite difficult. One of the last ones you should have done, but if you had deleted all of these others, then you could have. Alright, sorry I couldn't help you there more. As you can see, matching headings, there's no quick, easy solution. It's a lot of reading. Anything that we can learn from this? Notice the thing about the future. If it's not there at the end, then it's not there. Notice the tenses of the paragraphs, past tense, present tense. And then just notice if things are positive or negative, positive words or negative words. These were all a lot of negative words. Here there were some positive words that could have helped you. The two most difficult ones were paragraph A, that was very difficult to get, and paragraph G, also very difficult. And that's another tip to be aware of is look at paragraph A, but don't waste too much time on it. Often IELTS makes paragraph A very, very difficult. They do this with true, false, not given, with many question types. They make the first one very difficult. So don't be afraid to skip it and come back to it at the end. Okay, I'm not going to do this last one because the video's gone on too long. We spent too much time on matching headings. So I'll just tell you where they are. First, let me just say that if you get to this sort of thing and you're running out of time, just guess and move on. This question type can be very, very difficult. End of reading 2, you still got another reading to get to. I would say only the band 8, band 9 students should attempt this. The rest of you just guess and move on. I always guess BC, but choose whatever ones you want to guess. So I'll just show you where they are. Actually, it is BC. I got lucky, but not always the case. That was here, how they were transported. This word actually was very important. These guys say that the statues didn't need so much people and wood because they were walked upright, and the impact on society was in the exact same place. It kept the peace, whereas Diamond thinks they started a war, the statues started a war. Alright, so don't worry about it. You're just going to guess those two and move on to reading 3.